technology right now in this space is easily swappable. What's not is solving business problems. What's not very easily swappable is engaging and building champions and trusted business relationships that go parallel.
Welcome to the Revenue Builders Podcast, a weekly show featuring B2B sales leaders and executives. Hosted by five-time CRO John McMahon and Force Management co-founder John Kaplan, the show takes guests in the barrel, behind the scenes with the people who've been there, done that, and seen the results. Revenue Builders covers best practices for scaling and growing your business while sharing the pitfalls to avoid. Enjoy today's episode.
Revenue Builders, welcome back. Today, we are reuniting with a guest who defines what it means to build an execution machine. When we last sat down with Brian McCarthy in episode 71, we talked about the ultimate hallmark of a leader, that a job well done means the job is done. Brian didn't just talk about it, he lived it. He helped lead Rubrik through an era-defining run, pivoting from a forgotten backup company into a cybersecurity titan that scaled from 118 million to 1.5 billion in ARR in just 5 years. He built the machinery, recruited his own successor, and true to his word, he stepped away to find the next great track to lay. And folks, that new track has led him to the absolute epicenter of the AI economy. Brian is now the president of global revenue at Cursor, an AI native coding platform that is quite literally melting traditional growth models. We're talking about a company that went from 400,000 in sales-led revenue to nearly 300 million in a single year. They are exiting this quarter at a total ARR of 3 billion. But this isn't just a story about viral growth. It's a masterclass in avoiding what Johnny McMahon likes to call the PLG trap. If you want to know how value selling survives and thrives in a world of autonomous AI agents and the AI factory, you need to hear this. He's the man who reminds us that in a world of swappable technology, you as the salesperson are the moat. Let's get after it. So, Brian, it's amazing to reflect back on episode 71 with Revenue Builders that we had with you, and you were talking about, the leader. A job well done is the job is done, and it doesn't require you anymore. And I know that it's kind of a perfect segue into you're moving from one opportunity to another. Would you just kind of reflect on that for us a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, Rubrik's an incredible company. Life-changing for me and the McCarthy family, and life-changing for a lot of folks that were part of that run. And a lot of my best friends in the world are over there, and you both know, John and Cap, like what it's like when you go build something special and have tremendous economic outcome for a lot of people. It's deep. It goes deep, and so we went from 100 million, 118 million in ARR to 1.5 billion in 5 years. A company that was kind of forgotten to be like, those
Right.
backup guys are, that's old. They missed their window to, recreating the space, pivoting to cyber, building an execution machine and re-accelerating growth, which I don't know had ever happened before. The year before, they grew at 6%. And then they went on to grow at a 80% CAGR. In the last 2 years, we're the highest publicly traded company in growth in the public market. So that's actual in SaaS for SaaS companies with growing revenue over 48%, both the 8 quarters we were public. So it was a lot of fun building it. But a key pivot point for me was when I went and recruited Jesse Green over to Rubrik. And
Great guy.
yeah, just phenomenal. Grew up under both of you, by the way. at Mongo and became a really phenomenal leader there, like honed his craft. And it's really interesting when I was recruiting for this role, it wasn't because we had something massively broken. In fact, to give Austin Stephanie a lot of credit, he was executing an incredible job, right? And it was more about like him being ready to kind of move on into a CRO role as well, which he's done a good job at DBT. It was more about like, what did we need to kind of replace myself and build that muscle into the company as we were going public. And Jesse was somebody that was used to calling a big number in a public company. And I only targeted one guy. It's the only person I recruited for it was Jesse Green. And the first call was to, sell before you buy. It's just to kind of get them excited. And he took the call and he's like, hey, I just figured awesome opportunity to connect with you. I thought you were just going to talk shop. And
Well, so he knows a lot of guys went from Mongo to work for you over at Rubrik.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. And so we ended up, hitting it off and he came on board. And one of the things that was important for Jesse was to go from growing up in one discipline and kind of you've probably all heard me say this before, like I'm not a playbook guy. And the reason I say that is because I think first principle thinking is primarily the way you build companies. And the thing that's beautiful around what we've built with force management and is it's actually first principle thinking. It's just like, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And how do we use tools and common language and a framework to address and close those gaps to help us deliver more value for our customers. And he wanted to kind of expand that. And he really wanted to get exposed, I know, into some of the things that he hadn't had a chance, things like comp planning, productivity model, understanding how to build the plan from the bottom up, interacting with product in a different way, where you start reinforcing product and what product needs to be built and how to prioritize product and product release, really driving the company build. And so when I pulled him in to run the Americas, I was actually running a lot of functions, post sales, pre sales, customer success, like the finance. I mean the partners and alliances, and so I was able to kind of bring Jesse along for the ride where he wasn't just running the Americas. He was integral in building comp plans, tweaking comp plans, interacting with finance, how to shape the business and our ratios and and how we're going to shape comp as a percentage of revenue and
yeah,
product build and all of that. And that was really great. So once I felt like, man, this is a machinery that can operate, and I felt good that I could step away and the business was going to go on and continue to beat and raise without me, as I still have plenty of shares over there. It gave me an opportunity to say, all right, this is time to go do what I love to do better than anything, which is lay new tracks versus keeping trains on time. Not that I'm not good at that operating, keep trains on time, but it doesn't feed my lifeblood as much as like going and building and shaping and laying the foundation and framework of putting trains going places that they never were going before. And so that's what led to the transition, me jumping into this AI economy, epicenter of the AI economy and code generation. So
tell
yeah,
everybody what you're doing now.
yeah. So unique opportunity, actually. And it's funny, John, that you opened up with the timing thing because and we have a lot of mutual friends who can talk with Matt Murphy about this. I remember Matt Murphy reached out to me, who was on our board at AppD and then also is on the board at Anthropic, and he reached out to me early for the Anthropic CRO gig. And I remember saying, "Hey, can't do it." Not, and it wasn't like not interested, not a good company. It was precisely what you said, John. It was like Rubrik wasn't in a position I could leave. We had just gone public. We were 2 quarters post going public when he first reached out. And I couldn't do that to the business or, it wasn't right. And so the timing was off. I also actually spoke with Brad and the team over at OpenAI at the same time and just same decision. I was like, guys, timing is bad. So once I got to a period of time in which it was like 8 quarters, public markets, it's running on a rhythm, we're beating, we're raising, have an incredible leader that's comfortable in space. It gave me an opportunity to do what I was most interested in doing, which is to kind of explore this AI economy. And then within the AI economy, it's like, what's the epicenter of it? Where is all the attention and money? And it really is, this AI code assistance and code generation. And I found in Cursor maybe the most unique situation possible in a company that had so much product demand from a PLG motion, incredible awareness within the engineering community, but relatively unknown. Like I'd never heard of a company that got to, 1 billion in ARR in a year and relatively
Crazy.
with almost no go-to-market
Right.
motion. And everything was bottoms up. And I thought to myself, man, what would happen if we could build a go-to-market machine that married bottoms up and a top-down value selling? And could we go on as the sales execution and go-to-market machine become the moat, and the difference? And so it just became something that was too incredible of an opportunity that was a company that had scale from a revenue perspective but didn't yet have any of the pieces in place from marketing to demand gen to field. In fact, every employee that they had was only in 2 offices. There was no remote even. So they like it was so early that I felt like this was a unique opportunity to put my fingerprints all over something to go build and shape a
Yeah.
business that already had a tremendous demand gen engine through PLG. So
But
yeah,
when you went
unique
in,
opportunity.
was there any enterprise sales reps when you went in, or is it just all PLG motion at that time?
There was, and the team under Tomer, first like sales leader on the board, they started last year with an enterprise, what they would call enterprise sales led revenue, and they have self led revenue, two different components. And because the self-led revenue was so dramatic, which is the PLG, the enterprise-led motion was not able even to keep up with capacity. And they started the year with 4 people in go-to-market, ended the
In
year
enterprise. In
in the
enterprise.
enterprise, ended the whole company had 38 people
Yeah,
or
that's why
so
I asked.
last January,
Right.
but they had 4 people in go to market. They finished the year that year. They went from $400,000 in sales led to almost 300 million in sales led. And they went from, less than half a billion in PLG to 1.8 billion. And they went from 30 some employees to 200 some employees and went from 4 go-to-market people to like 80 go-to-market people. But that's how the year ended. And I started that February.
Can't
And
there also be another arm where it's PLG sourced and enterprise, led or closed?
yeah, so what was really interesting, John, is that the enterprise team, which I would say is like has pretty good talent density, smart, understand the engineer, can engage in a feature function conversation on the ground in a bottoms up motion, high slope, high technical IQ, and maybe has really good PG skills and maybe actually has really good value selling skills, but they weren't able to use them and deploy them because they were actually drowning in opportunity. If I'm being super clear, they literally were drowning in opportunity. I don't mean that as in that they're not capable. What I mean is that their sales motion was your customer is spending X on a credit card. Go talk to them and convert them over to a committed spend over a 12 to 36-month period. And so virtually all of that $300 million sales lead, all of it was driven from a conversion of a PLG.
But
So, and
doesn't that also speak to if you're drowning in those types of deals, doesn't that also speak to the fact that you have to make sure you're chasing the right deals to
totally,
optimize
totally. But,
for maximum revenue, even though these revenues are off the
yeah.
chart?
So
How
with
do I know what is my benchmark to know that I'm chasing the right deals to maximize it even more? Like, so the
yeah,
question always becomes compared to what?
yeah.
We're
And,
doing good, great. Compared to what?
yeah, and I don't think that was able to happen. And so the challenge, the big challenge, and I said this, I spoke at their SCO or our SCO, I think it was like day one, February 7th or something, 7 days into the year. I said, our first, second, and third biggest problem at Cursor and biggest challenge is capacity. And capacity solves a lot of things because it lets you do your best work, your career work. If you have 40, 50 opportunities at any given time, you can't actually do your best work. And by the way, your customer and prospect aren't getting what they deserve as the best possible buying experience.
Right.
And so our problem ended up being, and I would say this, and I told the entire company this. I said, failure will be sown at the pinnacle of success. And our failure will be because we were too successful in PLG and couldn't get out into executing great, like doing the great sales execution, go to market motion and giving our buyers an incredible experience because we were inundated just from demand and couldn't keep up with it. So much so that I would tell you, we made a plan to go from 100 go-to-market people to 866 this year. And since I've been here, we've gone from 100 to 300 in 7 weeks. Let that sink in for a second. Like
Yeah.
I've hired Europe, APJ. I resegmented the entire business. And the reason I will never forget the first day I was talking with somebody who told me they can't get out of bed for a deal that's under $1 million because if you just do the math, think about this for a second. 40 sellers were going to do 300 million. Forget about the PLG that will exit 3 billion this quarter in total ARR. But just in the sales led, I think we did 270 or whatever last year. We'll surpass that in Q1. We'll do 320 plus of new ARR in sales led. And that started with 40 people. So just do the math. That's like $12 million for Q1 a person. So to your point, they didn't have the choice. It was like, there was deals that just weren't even getting to it. It was like, hey, I can't get to it. I'd love to get to it. I have no chance to get to that. And so our biggest problem was cutting up territories. Average enterprise seller was having 30 existing accounts with customers. And so we weren't there was no PG motion. Why would
Mhm.
you PG like, I remember Dan Fougere told me one time when he went to Datadog, he said, Brian, sometimes it doesn't have to be that hard, when they're jumping into the boat. And if they are jumping into the boat in that manner, the challenge of it is to really win the space. We have to go win where we're not. And we're just winning over the champions that are already champions that love us. And there's a whole world of people that are winning where we're not. And
That's what it strikes me as, like it's a game of risk. Which countries do I have to have
totally.
now to win the long game, versus strategically just winning cities in all the countries, but eventually my competitors start owning the countries and I'll be run out of the cities.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because the AI space is like this. So, first of all, not the AI space. Let me be very specific about this. AI space is a massive space that does a lot of things. Our world is very in particular to the SDLC. It's the software development lifecycle. It is about helping companies deliver and ship software or applications, whether that's tech companies or big banks or whatever, build applications faster and deliver them higher quality, faster and with less cost. So improve the productivity of an engineer to be able to do more with less. And that space is not a binary space. So if you think about it, what's required to in this space, you need um, this space started off with what we would call engineering assistance. Originally, it was tab, so it was like, you um, think about like autocomplete on your phone, right? You're texting and a word comes up and it just auto completes. It was that for engineers. It essentially is, hey, you're in there writing code and it knows what you're going to write and it completes the code. So that was the start of code generation. It was like, and the companies that did that best were the ones that had deepest understanding of the code base and most engineers using it. And because the engineers use it, they had the best ability to anticipate what they were going to write and complete the code. That's why Cursor like blasted onto the environment. We had 3 million engineers using it. We were the best at anticipating code completion, but like it wasn't a comparison. And so it exploded. And you didn't need sales to do that. It was just get engineers using it. It's self-serve.
And they did that, Brian, at the AI level, at the task level, right? That's so they're basically the reason why there's very little competition, I think, right now, is because it was done at the task level. The AI was built right there.
Yeah, totally. So essentially, as people were building and building code in what was referred to as an IDE, which is the individual development
Yeah.
environment, right? And so their environment is in there. They're in there writing code, and they're going out getting code, like searching for code in the code base, bringing that back, and then auto completing that. And that was happening in Cursor. And what changed, which pivoted from that, that was, I would say, these lifespans in technology in our world used to last 5 years, 6 years, get disrupted, something comes along. Now it gets disrupted in a year or months or weeks. And so this was the most innovative thing in the world. Every engineer in the world wanted it. It was like nutty. And then it went and got disrupted in months. And so then what happens is Claude comes out and the next frontier is, all right, do you even you don't need to go ahead and complete the engineering test because you don't even need to be a linguist anymore. The agent can build the code on its own. So and so that pivot took place. And now you see companies like Cursor that are just leapfrogging in that space. And what they're doing is they're creating, instead of an IDE, an ADE, an agent development environment
Mm.
where agents are building code on its own. And so this then is the current model that we're in. And this becomes like a little bit of a competitive market currently. But the way the market is competitive is this: those agents are going against a model, and that model is what is fine-tuned to be able to generate the code. So it goes in through the model, pulls it out. So if you think about models like Opus and Anthropic's model, Claude going against Opus to go build the application or generate the code for the application. Cursor came out with its version, Composer. And this is probably more than everybody's super interested in, but it's really interesting how quick the place moves. And so in Cursor, it has its own agent build and its own model that comes. And what happens is every
Which has
few
3 million users.
yeah, exactly. And so every few weeks, models jump each other. Opus 4.6 was the best model in the world, and then OpenAI came out with the best model in the world. Then, by the way, Cursor just came out with Composer 2.0, and that proved to be the best, like objectively measured on performance, ability to generate the code, completeness of code, and quality of code, amount of code kept. It was inarguably better. So every time the models keep jumping, and then you have Devin from Windsurf, or the cognition folks. You have DeepSeek, and the open source models. You have Google, and you have Microsoft models. So all these things are being built. And what Cursor did that's very different, here's where I'm saying this space is like super wild, is Cursor is agnostic to what model you use.
Yes.
So if you're Claude and you're a Claude user, you're going to consume an Anthropic model. When they release the model, you're only locked into that model. However, you can use Claude and you can use the Anthropic models in the Cursor harness. You could use Codex in the Cursor harness. You can use Codex against their model in there. You can use our model. You can use our agent build. You can go directly against term. It doesn't matter.
You can switch based upon capability and pricing.
Exactly. So what we provide essentially a very differentiated solution, and this is where we're almost like more like frenemies right now with a lot of the competition. More Anthropic is consumed through Cursor than anywhere else in the world. In fact, when OpenAI announced, I think they said like 5 exabytes were already consumed. It's like a week ago or 2 weeks ago of their new model. 40% of that was consumed through Cursor. 40% of all their model usage. So what that means is that Cursor is giving the engineer the unique ability to be able to pick the right model for the right use case, because not everything might need an Opus 6, and there's a cost trade-off between speed, quality, and the dollars it takes to go build that, an agent build. And so Cursor is giving people the ability to automate that process, to auto-select the right model for the right job. And in that way, we see this space slightly different. This is where I was getting to, John, around the competitive thing. We look at Anthropic and an OpenAI is going to be our best partners in the world for a long time. That's why I talk with Paul and Brad regularly. I'm engaged with these guys, and I look at them as the hyperscalers, and we're the Snowflake Databricks of the world.
There you go.
In that we're building the vertical expertise for SDLC, and they are building models and agents to solve maybe the largest TAM in the history of time, human work, which is a $50 trillion TAM. They're trying to build models for poets and actors and voiceover and nurses and lawyers and everything else. We're just building agents for SDLC and do that better and faster than anybody in the world. And in doing so, we're going to consume and burn down more Anthropic usage than I believe Claude will burn down, in due time. We'll burn down more OpenAI usage than Codex.
You're selling the picks. You're almost selling the picks and the shovels for the gold rush, right?
Exactly. So that gives everybody a little bit like a context.
Oh, that's really good.
Amazing.
Talking about that though, and you have all these deals. Where does account management fit? Your reps are, trying to figure out if they're doing the best deals, the $1 million deals. Otherwise, I can't get out of bed. Let's say.
Yeah.
Does account management fit into this picture at all?
Totally. So one of the things we did right after I heard that comment about getting out of bed, I segmented the business. It took me 7 days on the job. I segmented the business like this. I created an enterprise strategic vertical that no rep had more than 4 accounts. And I opened up 80 recs to go hire 80 reps across 5 verticals for North America. They can have no more than 1 existing customer and 3 prospects. And now that becomes a forcing function to go execute and run, both give our customers and our prospects an incredible experience, a buying experience, to understand their needs and be able to help them through their AI journey properly and give them the right attention and focus. And it also lets a seller exercise what they love to do better than anything, right? Like they actually have to go do PG and go build business value cases and understand the business value justification and meet the engineer and the top down together in the middle, where you're having, value-based conversations as well as, the bottoms-up approach. So we did this. And a lot of people you all know we've now ended up hiring. I then segmented the enterprise business to go from 50 accounts down to no more than 18, and they could have no more than three existing customers, so they couldn't chase. Then I created another segment, what we call Geo. They can have no more than 30 accounts, and they can have no more than five existing. Then I created a commercial, and they are basically everything under 250 engineers. John, it's the only time in my entire life that I've ever segmented business and taken accounts away and changed the entire structure, and nobody complained. In fact,
Mm.
every single person in seat said, "Thank God. Like now I can do my best work. You're helping me." Like
A little
nobody
more
complained
sanity.
that their territory got smaller. They
Yeah.
all said, I've been begging for, a cavalry to come so that we could do better work.
So, Brian, I'm struck by, going back and listening to episode 71. One thing that our listeners loved, and it became kind of a mantra out in the marketplace, is winning the stage.
Oh yeah.
And at Rubrik, I remember that was such a big part of your discipline was we are talking about winning, not winning deals. We're talking about winning the stage.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here just getting blown away by this conversation because you come from a focus of winning the stage to now I got to limit the number of accounts these birds go after because
Yeah.
there's so much opportunity. Could you just sit in the seat of, I know you're president now, sit in the
Yeah.
seat of like a sales leader. What are some of the things that you are contemplating now? Do you anticipate that winning the stage, is it going to come back? Is
Yeah.
this thing going to level out? How do you scale and grow a business that's so vastly different than, I mean, there's like so much opportunity out there. I'm just share with us how you're thinking about that. And
Yeah.
what kind of seller, it's got to have an impact on the kind of sellers you're bringing in right now.
Totally. So I'll hit on both things. One is here's where I think there's absolute truisms that hold for eternity. And the truism is this: we don't sell software, champions sell software. Our job is to go develop and build champions. Doesn't matter what it is. And by the way, the activities needed to build champions might be different in different places and different times. The job isn't to do as many activities as you need to build a champion, it's to build champions. And the way that you build champions is helping individuals that have great influence in organizations solve the critical personal and professional problems and challenges they have. That's what our job is. It's not to sell somebody features, functions, or whatever. It's to engage with people, understand their personal, professional gaps and challenges, meet them there, map them to solutions, and build them into champions so that when we're not in the room, they're selling for us. Now, what we have done to date is champions have built themselves by leveraging, playing, and using the technology and said, "This is changing my life." And so they have become champions of the product. Now, what are we missing there? We're missing the understanding of all of the other potential champions in an organization that we're not talking to and that aren't already solving their own problem on their own. And this is the potential huge opportunity. And this is where win the stage becomes critical around where we're coaching and developing is every one of our accounts, everyone has engineers using us and something else as well. Somebody else has champions in there as well. And who has the most champions, who has the most influential champions, ends up owning and winning, the accounts. And what I found is today in a self-serve PLG motion, champions are just who we're engaged with. They built themselves. And what we're missing is our critical role in helping folks that don't know yet or haven't experienced yet the differentiation or gross differentiation in our product and how we can help them. And so this is our job to go participate in that. You've said like a million times, participate in your own rescue for sellers. This is participating in your own rescue for engineers. And if they haven't already done the work themselves, which we're missing out, or they're stuck in something else, or they've got a bad narrative, or they live on X or Twitter and they don't understand what Cursor can do for them, they're missing out. And we have a moral obligation to go get in front of them and help them understand how we can absolutely transform their life personally and professionally by making them more productive and solve their business challenges. This requires PG. This requires a proactive, outbound approach to engage the engineers and the support engineers and the pre-sales and the marketers and the product managers where they live. And the only way this can happen is if you have time, energy, and opportunity to put a PG plan together, to do the research, to understand who's who within the account, why are you going after them, what are their real pain points, and how do you uniquely solve them? And you can't do that if everybody's calling you to just upgrade and you just have to like you don't have time to engage in that conversation
And
because
the
you're just
population
talking with
of
the people
people
that love you.
and the population, I'm struck with this, is like the opportunity's so big in the land of these engineers, and yet with AI, we know that
Yeah,
the chasm between IT and lines of business is starting to get very, very mired. Like it's
totally.
not traditional anymore. So
Yeah,
these lines of businesses, they don't know the codes. They don't know
yeah,
they want they want speed, they want accuracy, they want, so you can't just, and this is probably why you're so perfect for the job, is it's this winning at the bottoms up approach and then bringing in the value sale to business outcomes. Because if somebody stays just on the technical business capabilities of this industry, you could get usurped.
totally. I mean, spot on. I have this saying in 6 weeks. So I already have started, I've already started sayings over here. But the saying is, you're the moat. And I've been saying that
Yes.
because technology right now in this space is easily swappable. What's not is solving business problems. What's not very easily swappable is engaging and building champions and trusted business relationships that go parallel. So, yes, you can swap best model, best time, in and out code generation, but the person that's in front of them that's building trusted relationships they know they're going to anticipate their needs and they're going to build for the incomplete SDLC is going to win the accounts. The only way you can do that is to get your ass off the seat and to get out into the place, where you're in front of people
Yes.
and you're engaged with them. And so that is the big transformation at Cursor as we go from 100 go to market to 866. This is not a, hey, go build, an army of people that are standing around reporting the news. This is to go give our buyers the best possible experience. This is to go give them the best possible evaluation experience. This is to go build partnerships in the field, with them to build the moat. And you said something super interesting about the bottoms up, top down. The engineer is interesting because in general, as I say this, I just want to be super clear. This is an overgeneralization. Not all engineers think like this, but the engineer often is disconnected from the whole, meaning like their job is to go build and execute their portion of an application. It's a check out, check in, solution. And because of that, if you live only in selling in that area, you can't really be outcomes based because the engineer that you're selling or developing the champion around, you might champion them and their ability to generate the code for that piece really well. But if you try to sell them on or articulate the value of, hey, you actually reduced your RFE backlog by 100%, and that feature increase has allowed you to drive, I don't know, 80 million more in revenue this quarter. That doesn't resonate with them.
No.
So you have to have that conversation with who it does, which is going to be, CTOs that own application development as a whole, or presidents, CFOs, board level folks that have mandates to reduce R&D as a percentage of spend. And now you're having a conversation that says, hey, I can have a 3-point impact on your R&D as a percentage of your revenue to deliver more applications, more tech faster, and do it at higher quality and improve the lives of your people as well. That, but you can't just go top down because in the
Nobody's
engineering
going to
world,
make that tech. The business owners business leaders are never going to, they're going to look at you and go, Brian, I'd be shocked if my people don't buy you, but I'm not
yes,
going to tell them to buy you.
exactly. This is the
Right?
key. This is the key, which
Yes.
makes this space so different. You have to have the top down to do the thinking as the board level conversations around R&D are happening and formulating, but nobody's ever going to tell an engineer what he can use to do his work.
100%.
So you need to do both, and you need this bottom up, which brings us to your question, which was profile. And I think profile at Cursor, we've been really thoughtful around. We want people with tremendous slope. I've always said clock speed's really important. Do I need everybody that has gone to MIT, Stanford, and Harvard? No. But I need everybody that has the tremendous ability to understand technology quickly, digest it, and articulate it. They can't just speak in value without understanding what the day-to-day life is of their end user and their buyer. So they have to have an engineering mindset and be able to go have those conversations and have a technical acumen for that. So they call it, the term would be like slope around like intelligence. I actually think of it really as clock speed is most important. And I think I've said this before, innovation is not held back by the speed to which you can build and deliver and ship product. Innovation, the governor on innovation, is how fast your field can digest it and bring it to the market. And so
Mhm.
clock speed in a super fast moving business has become the most critical element. And in years past, people test it for intelligence around, probably your SEs or like, your engineers. But I'm maniacally focused on smart sellers. And I think that's super critical.
Brian, that slope, one of the inputs has to be, and I know your feelings on this, you have to feed that slope.
Oh yeah,
If somebody has slope and they prove that I have slope at Rubrik, does not necessarily mean I'm going to have slope at Cursor.
totally.
So you have to put an input. There's got to be something that they can consume. Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Well, just today, I think it hit LinkedIn that we hired JP Bolin. As you can imagine, JP is like my right
Incredible,
hand
incredible
right hand
hire.
person. Probably the best go-to-market enablement transformation person I've ever been around in my life. And the thing that makes him so unique is, as you both know, he's a world-class sales leader. And one of the things that makes what you both do so incredible around teaching and coaching development is you were world-class sales leaders, you built world-class sales teams and organizations. And JP brings that from his PTC, BMC, Blade, and Mongo days. This is one of the best sellers that's ever walked the earth. And so when he tells you and teaches you and coaches you, you're not wondering, who is this enablement person teaching me? It's like, oh no, I'm going to listen to this. So you're exactly right. We have to what from a profile, let me just be like super clear profile, what I actually am looking for is somebody that has had the ability to sell at multiple different places, different products to different personas. Because
Mhm.
what that tells me, gives me visible evidence, if they've been successful, is that they can digest new information, understand it, and communicate it in a thoughtful way and be successful.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so that's the prerequisite that says, hey, they might never sold into engineering. They may not have PLG experience, but they can think and they can digest and they can learn. And then I put that into place with incredible ability to teach, to coach, and put a program together to bring both content, learning, and digestion for the field together. And that's right profile of rep with right infrastructure to keep them fed.
So, Brian, there's a
Masterclass,
lot of
dude.
people that,
Master.
the three of us know enterprise sales really well. And there's nobody probably in the world better suited to do what you're trying to do at Cursor. But there's a lot of people that are financial people. They're not
Mhm.
really, they'll never understand, a tenth or a hundredth of what you know in enterprise sales and why what your approach is the right approach. So there's people that probably feel like they're in a PLG trap, meaning in
Yeah,
the sense this company took off on PLG. It was fast. We had a short sales cycle, low cost model, financial metrics were just beautiful. Now we bring
yeah,
in this guy, Brian McCarthy,
yeah,
hiring all these expensive sales guys. We're burning money, and they're only looking at it from a financial standpoint.
yeah,
And, you as great as you are, you
yeah.
still probably have a challenge where you're going to have to convince some of those people that this is the right model, right?
Totally.
So the three of us all know it is the right model,
Yeah, super spot on.
right?
Well, one of the things I had to test for, and I'll just sort of say, like I talked with Michael, brilliant guy, but young, right? I mean, I think Michael's 25 years old, founder,
Yeah,
25
your
years old.
co-founders are in their 20s, right?
Yeah, yeah, they're all 25. Jordan, Michael, Swally, Aman, they're all, 25, 26 years old, brilliant. And they're great company builders. But what I really had to test for was, are they students of the game? And they are some of the best students that I've ever seen.
Mhm.
They've done all their research. They understand what makes great companies. And I asked them this question. I said, like, just as a test, I said, why do you need me? I'm very expensive. Like,
Yeah,
I
right.
literally says, I'm like, literally, I'm very expensive. You
And
can
I'm
hire
going to
me, like,
change everything you've been doing so far.
exactly.
Almost
Like,
everything.
well, it seems to be working. Why do you need me? And
Yes.
Jordan and Michael's both take was anything that's easily acquired is easily lost.
Mhm.
And
Amen. Very good.
and so to build an enduring generational company that has the ability to be $1 trillion TAM is going to require us to marry this PLG with the ability to get very sticky and be a large enterprise business. And they walked through it and they did their history. Companies that grew up in PLG but never made the conversion into enterprise, most of them failed.
Yeah, they call it
Uh,
the PLG trap.
yeah,
Yeah.
most of them failed. And so they've known it. And so they understood it and they're willing to invest in it. And we also built a plan together that walks us through gross profit and when we cross over and what's that going to look like and get really focused on what the guardrails are. And so how we get there. So we're not reckless, but they understand that this is the path to building an enduring company. And just on that, we also realize, this is kind of like the thing I'm giddy about, is the tip of the spear is really this code augmentation and code generation. That's the thing that's sexy, that everybody's up and to the right. It's like, hey, you can go from uh, 0 to 3 billion in, I don't know, what's this, 10 quarters, right? Like that's just mind blowing. But but in doing so, the key understanding is that piece is that tracks all the engineers. But when we expand upon that, so we bought this company called Graphite and integrated it in what's called code review. Code review is a team sport. Code review has multiple people reviewing and looking at code. That's sticky. So now I built this code review go to market. So now I'm generating all the code and now I'm doing code review. What are the next things for us to do? Well, it's to go do the design area, the secure the code area, and the implement the code area. And in doing that, we become a very sticky, enduring SDLC machinery.
Mm.
And in an AI factory, like you're going to hear it here first. Think about this. In AI factory, the future state of software development, I said early was like tab, complete, then it's
Mhm.
agent build. The end state is agents going and doing, requirement gathering design work. That agent work gets passed off to another agent
Agents
that
running agents.
that then generates the code that passes off to agents to do code review, that passes off to do secure the code and scans the code, that passes off to do implement the code. In this AI factory, the only way this world will work is if agents have interoperability and agents to talk to each other with various different models. You could never trust one agent on one model to check itself across. You need one model to check another model. The only way that future state can happen is if you can bring that together in a singular harness like Cursor, that a codex operating on an OpenAI model can pass to a Cursor, agent reviewing on Composer that can pass to, a Claude that can pass somebody else and complete that. And bringing all of those models together for review and all the agents together in a singular platform. And now engineers turn into agent managers that are going and managing the agents and spot checking them. And that's the future state what this is going to move to. And I bet you it moves there faster than anybody believes it's going to.
If you're
Holy
listening to
smokes.
this episode and you're not excited about maybe
Holy
joining
smokes.
Brian McCarthy, you're out of your mind. I'm ready to come to work for you, brother.
Ready to rip the heads off chickens, buddy. Let's go. Johnny, you know what
Love it.
this sounds like? This sounds like, and we should just send a note to it whenever you're ready, dude, because like Johnny and I are big, big fans of the All In podcast. What he's articulating at the reality side of the execution is exactly what they are wondering on that podcast, if anybody can do. So
Mm,
uh you're
like
amazing,
Ryan
dude.
on the All In podcast.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, love you guys, man. I learned a lot from both of you over the years. You're great partners too. We'll certainly be leaning in, to help you, to get some help as we
Can we get
scale
an
this
office
thing
there,
out.
bro?
Oh yeah, you'll get you in. Yeah. So, lot of fun, lot of work. But the ingredients are there to build something really, really special.
Totally.
And to do it, here's my last little thing I would just add to this. To be able to have a chance, you just want to have a chance. A lot of companies, no matter what they do, they don't have a chance to build $1 trillion company because the TAM
Mhm.
isn't there. The TAM in this is 2 trillion bucks, like and growing faster than the
Yes.
GDP. And so we have an opportunity to build something super special. So we have a chance to be one of these $1 trillion companies. And to have that chance, but to do it with to build a company with a soul that cares about human beings, that has a no asshole policy. We care about each other, we love each other, we're doing the best work of our career. You kind of look to your left, you look to your right, and you're like, man, I'm in the right room. I'm surrounded by a bunch of world-class CROs and execution machines and smart people that care about me. That's what jazzed me up around like getting to go lay new train tracks. So that's why I'm fired up.
Yeah.
Johnny, I got one
Congratulations.
before we go, I
Yeah.
got one little story to tell. I'm not even sure I've told Brian this. I might have alluded to it, but I got called by the search committee that
Mm.
was searching for the Rubrik leader. And you probably
Oh,
remember this, Johnny, because I called you. They called me and asked about this guy named Brian McCarthy. And I said, I've definitely heard of Brian McCarthy, but I don't think I know Brian McCarthy face to face. I called you. I called a lot of my great mentors and friends, and everybody had heard of Brian McCarthy, but there wasn't that many people, at least my circle, that had
yeah.
like, app dynamics for sure, the app dynamics, but for this job that they were
Yeah.
asking for. But one thing I heard about you, brother, was authentic leadership, incredible discipline drive. And I remember thinking, my feedback back to the group was, this sounds like where preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
My feedback back after I did the back channel, my feedback back to your search committee was this sounds like where preparation meets opportunity. Like this guy is prime. Congratulations, dude.
Thank you, dude.
You're just and by the way, when I did meet you the first time, nothing's changed about you. Yeah, you have more experience, you have more stories to tell about things that you've done, but the same attitude that you're taking to this new opportunity is exactly who you were when I met you before.
Uh,
Well
Thank you
done.
guys. Yeah, no, very blessed, super blessed. We all are, man. Yeah, incredible. Like you think about this, my dad was, you know, unloading ships on a dock and was a taxi cab driver. He washed the floors at Immaculate Conception. We're blessed. We could be digging ditches somewhere, and we have an opportunity to go build
Easily,
companies.
easily.
Amen. Happy Holy Week,
Thank you,
brother.
Brian
Yeah, you too,
McCarthy.
guys.
Thank you, John Cap. Thanks to everyone for listening to another episode of the Revenue Builders Podcast.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe, rate, and review the show to help us reach more people. This show is brought to you by Force Management, where we help companies improve sales performance, executing the growth strategy at the point of sale. Check out forcemanagement.com for more information.